Happy Friday, good people. Good morning. Recording from Manassas, Virginia, from Poku Law, as usual, grinding and serving immigrants around the U.S. Welcome to this live video, guys. Today we have something very, very interesting to talk about. So join in. We have Immigrant Stories time. So yes, settle down and let's get started. If you happen to watch this live video later, you're very welcome. And don't forget to, of course, like and follow the page. If you're watching on YouTube, also don't forget to subscribe to the channel at Poku Law. Okay. And yeah, on Facebook it's Poku Law PLLC, the law office of Poku. Okay, friends. So guys, you're welcome. Drop me your comments when you come on live and tell me where you're watching from and how everything is going, how you are doing. Okay, so let me just share the screen and let's get started. So today we're talking about the story of Pauline Sago. She is a native of Ghana. She's from Ghana, and her story was published by the Court of Appeals in 2018. So it's a very recent story. And yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So that's the screen right there. Let's just get started. So Lukin was the circuit judge. So Pauline Sago, guys, take note of these names. I'm going to be talking about Pauline Sago and Edward Oppong. Okay, so that's the story is going to revolve around Pauline Sago, but Edward Oppong was instrumental in the story. It's a really interesting story, so stick with me and let's talk about it. So Pauline Sago was a native and citizen of Ghana. So she came into the U.S. in May 2000, and she was the fiancée of a U.S. citizen. The U.S. citizen was called Samuel Lasso. I'm not sure if Samuel Lasso, the Lasso is a Ghanaian himself or, an American. A Ghanaian by origin, or it sounds like that's a Ghanaian name. Anyway, so clearly this was arranged. There's a K1 fiancé visa where you have a US citizen who's your fiancé or your boyfriend or your girlfriend here in the United States, and they can petition for you if you're based in Ghana or Nigeria or any other country outside the US. So that's how Pauline Sago came to the United States. She was the fiancée of a US citizen. And so they petitioned for something known as a K1 visa. And then she came through that. When you come, you are usually given a 6-month visa. And then when you come, you have to try to adjust your status from the K1 fiancé. You need to get married within a period of 90 days, and then you need to adjust your status. Okay. So once you get married to your spouse, then you file the adjustment of status. Okay, so Pauline was granted lawful. So they got, when she came in 2000, May 2000, they got married in July 2000. So May, June, July. Yeah, that's good. And then when she got married to him, she was granted lawful permanent resident status on a conditional basis. Okay. And guys, you know that with the conditional type of green card, normally you are married for less than 2 years before you file an adjustment of status application. You'll be given what's known as a conditional green card. It means it's just 2 years as opposed to the 10-year period. Okay. So in December 2002, they petitioned to remove the conditions. So normally when you're given a 2-year green card, 90 days before the expiration of the 2-year green card, you need to petition to remove the conditions, meaning you'll be given a 10-year green card if it's approved. So that's what they did. And in September 2007, that's 5 years after the petition, they did an extensive investigation and they denied the application. I can see trouble coming right there. Normally, when it takes that long, that means that's trouble looming and coming and, just trying to embrace you really hard. So let me scroll down here. Guys, drop me your comments, your thoughts, your perspectives and everything. So the DHS said that she failed to establish that her marriage was bona fide, and she also failed to establish that she did not enter into the marriage primarily to secure an immigration benefit. Okay. So, yep, they started removal proceedings against it. When that happens, you're issued an NTA and you're supposed to come to court. And so they did an evidentiary hearing, and the immigration judge upheld the termination of her green card, her 2-year green card. So that's one thing people fail to realize. When you get a green card, sometimes it's not over. The green card may just be very temporary, and you can get a green card and you can be deported afterwards. So you need to be very careful of all these things. So she got a 2-year green card. Pauline Sago from Ghana got a 2-year green card. However, she was ordered removed. She was ordered deported from the United States. Then the Board of Immigration Appeals affirmed. So when the Board of Immigration Appeals affirmed the decision, of course, that means they appealed. It was denied. And then she now petitioned for a review of the BIA's, that's the Board of Immigration Appeals, final removal order, the order that should have her deported from the US. So this case is about the petition for the review, whether it's going to be granted or denied. So that's what we're going to be looking at. And guys, you will be shocked at the amount of evidence they piled against her. Very, very, very damning evidence. Let me pull this up. Okay, so they talk about the law, which we've discussed. If you are married to a U.S. citizen, you could, or even a green card holder, and the marriage has been less than 2 years, you are going to be given something known as a conditional green card, usually for 2 years. And then you should file the I-751 90 days before the expiration of the 2-year green card, and then you will have it removed. Okay. If it's approved, if the petition is approved. Okay, so yeah, that the points where I've highlighted. So to prove that a marriage was entered into to procure, so if you say that the marriage was entered into for fraudulent reasons or it was a transactional marriage, DHS has a few things to establish. They must, number one, establish that the couple did not intend to establish life together at the time they were married. In fact, that is basically the main thing they need to establish. However, there are things that they look at to establish that you guys got married and you did not intend to establish your life together. You simply wanted a green card, what's known as a transactional marriage, or a green card marriage, So that's it. Okay, so let me open this up. I'll be reading comments soon, so just drop them, and then I'll try to respond as soon as we take a break here. So though the couple's intent at the outset of the marriage is the relevant question, normally when they're going to look at so let's say you find somebody, you get married to them, you try to adjust and get a green card through marriage. They're going to be looking at what was the intent of the marriage when you guys met. Did you intend to establish life together, or you just wanted a green card from the marriage? So when they're looking at intent, they'll look at the period before you guys got married. So if you met at a party and the conversation was that, oh, Charlie, I'm here in the US, I don't have papers, and the other person says, oh, I have papers. And like, then let's get married. I'll pay you $15,000. Clearly, the period before the marriage was established, what was the intent? The intent was to get a green card. That right there fails the test, the validity test. But if you guys met at a party and, the conversation is like, oh, damn, you're sexy. Like, I like you. I think I want us to chill. Like, let's just hang out and see what's up. And then you guys start a relationship, a romantic relationship. You hang out in his home and you're enjoying life, kissing, going on dates, just enjoying chocolates and cuddles and wine and whatever you guys are enjoying in your relationship. And then maybe some months or some weeks down the line, he calls you and you're very stressed. And he's like, why are you stressing? You're like, you know what? I have like problems with my documents. And then you guys brush it off. And then in the course of the relationship, you guys decide that, we are so in love, we want to get married. Clearly, when they look at the period before the marriage, you didn't get married just to procure immigration benefits. You guys fell in love and just happened that the person had U.S. citizenship, bingo, and you needed U.S. citizenship or you needed a green card, bingo. There's that connection right there. I mean, it just happens and that's good, okay? So that's what they're going to be looking at. They'll look at the intent before the marriage and then after the marriage. So evidence of intent can take many forms. So what are the types of things that they will look at to establish your intent both before and during the marriage? So they'll look at, your insurance policies like car insurance, health insurance, life insurance. And normally on these policies, you will list your spouse, like, okay, this is my spouse, this is my wife, this is my husband. Then they'll look at property leases. Normally for married people, you would have both people on the property leases, like where you live together, the home in which you live. Or if you have a vacation home or whatever, then income tax forms normally will be married filing jointly or married filing separately, for instance. It's usually ideal to file jointly. Then bank accounts, both of you should be listed on bank accounts. You should have, joint assets together and all of that. So evidence regarding the courtship, the wedding ceremony, shared residence, and shared experiences. So these are some of the things. So the main issue during the petition for review was whether Pauline Sago's marriage to Lasso was a sham or not. And they established that it was going to be a question of fact. And when the court tells you that it's a question of fact, normally what they're trying to do is to assess the truth or the falsity of alleged facts. Okay. But when they say it's a question of law, it means that they're going to be resolving the issues based on interpreting legal principles. Okay. Or basically just interpretation of law solely on whether so they'll be resolving the issue solely on what the law provides. But if it's a question of fact, then they are pretty much going to be looking at the facts in question. What did you do? And sometimes the jury actually resolves questions of fact and the judge will resolve a question of law. So that's the distinction. But here it was going to be a question of fact. And so they're going to be looking at the specific facts of what happened. Okay, so let's scroll down and now let's look into the juice of the case, guys. This is where it gets really juicy and very interesting. How these people conduct investigations, how, just everything about the case and how they led to the conclusion. Okay, so Pauline Sago, she actually entered the US May 13th, 2000. So that was 18 years before she was ordered deported. And she arrived in New York, of course, JFK. I assume that's where most of the bloggers land, right? When you arrive, you come like full of vim and, lots of energy to pursue your American dream. So I can imagine Pauline Sago arrived in her, maybe African wear dress and her jeans jacket, everything packed with prayers and hopes that her American dream was going to be fulfilled. And yes, she came on a fiancé visa. And then when she came, she was picked up in New Jersey and she stayed with Theodore Kudaya. I think that's also, he's also Ghanaian and she's a family friend. So she stayed with him in New Jersey for 4 days and then she traveled to Minnesota. That's how it is when you come. Normally somebody, of course, will pick you up from the airport and you will now be perhaps transported to where your final destination is. Okay, so Sago and Lasso, they got married in Minnesota. Okay, that in a courthouse, July 14th, 2000. And kind of the first red flag is that there were no family or friends that attended. Okay, normally if it's a genuine marriage, I mean, I know it's away from home, but there could be, one or two people that will attend the marriage, but no family and friends attended. Ding, first red flag. So, of course, they got married, and then 2 years later, they filed a petition. And then after they filed the petition to remove the conditions on Pauline's green card to, transition her from a 2-year green card to a 10-year green card. In 2003, unfortunately, they separated. Not good. Not good because you have a petition pending. If you have a petition pending, an I-751, and it's a joint petition and you separate, it's going to be denied unless you're able to convert it into a waiver-based petition. Okay, so they separated, not good. So in 2003, it was denied. They issued a notice of intent, probably to deny, saying that they were not going to give her a favorable consideration. Okay, so let me scroll down and then I see some DV questions coming through. Hopefully, oh gosh, I will read them soon. something very unfortunate happened. Last saw the man died in December 2003 while the I-751 petition was pending. Okay, then came all the, well, some more trouble right here. So after the guy himself died, Margaret Abraham, that was the man's sister, Lasso, that is Pauline Sago's sister-in-law. She lived in Minnesota. And of course, she made the funeral arrangements and everything. And because it was a sham marriage, of course, Pauline Sago was clearly not living with Lasso. And so she didn't make any type of arrangements. And she later on claimed that she was the surviving spouse of the man of Lasso, right? And normally, when you claim you're a surviving spouse, all the guy's properties and the money in his bank account will come to you. And so that's where the sister-in-law was like, no way, I'm not going to allow you to come and take these properties when this was just a fake marriage. Okay. So here's where all the evidence came, crumbling down. I mean, the evidence was brought to light. So the sister-in-law, Margaret Lasso, was like, look, this was a sham marriage. And she forwarded a copy of Lasso's death certificate that was issued in 2003. And the death certificate listed the man as never married. How is this possible? This guy has actually gone to Ghana, gone to bring a woman, Pauline Sago, got married to her. And his death certificate says never married. And they have a petition filing with immigration. Big problem has started. So in June 2004, that's a year after Lasso died, the woman, Sago, Pauline Sago, appeared. She appeared for her I-751 petition interview with DHS. And the officer was called Jennifer Squira. Okay. And she actually submitted an amended death certificate stating that Lasso was married to Pauline Sago. Another red flag. So the officer said that no, this discrepancy, she wasn't just going to accept it. They needed to do a comprehensive investigation. Why would somebody who's married be dead? And then the death certificate would first say not married and then later say married. So clearly they were going to investigate that. Okay. And interesting enough, before the guy died, he had drafted a letter to immigration saying that, look, withdraw the affidavit of support because for Pauline Sago, because I've just changed I've changed my mind. I don't want to, support her again. I don't want to petition for her again. Okay. And so because she had for Sago, because she had experienced a change in heart, rejected his request to move in with him and concluded that marrying him was out of the question because of irreconcilable differences. So I don't know what happened between the couple, but clearly I'm not sure if Lasso in the middle of the game fell in love with Pauline Sago and told her to move in with him and she declined. And so she wanted to withdraw. I don't know. I wasn't there, so I can't tell. But from the case, that's what Lasso wrote to the immigration. And then Edward Oppong comes in, a Ghanaian, you can tell, right? The officer called him. They did investigations and found him, called him, and he was a friend of the man, Lasso. And Oppong stated that he visited Lasso in 2000 and he learned Sago had refused Lasso. Strange. Sago had refused to marry Lasso, but I don't know why she refused to marry him and then later on went to marry him. But then Sago paid Lasso $7,000 to file immigration papers that would enable her to obtain a green card. Then she wanted nothing more to do with the guy. She complained that Pauline Sago had complained to Edward Oppong that Lasso was collecting more money just to follow through with the arrangement. So of course the arrangement turned messy. It just simply turned messy and the problem started coming. Yes, Oppong didn't, he was an okro mouth. He spilled everything. Of course, it's good to comply with immigration officers when they're doing these investigations because you don't want trouble. So I don't know. Maybe he didn't want trouble. So clearly he said the problem, the couple's marriage was full of, they were constantly arguing and okay, so Oppong described the couple's problem-ridden and argumentative relationship, and he described a heated argument about the marriage arrangements, and while the three dined at a steakhouse in the Mall of America. Okay. And so yeah, they determined that his recollection was credible. Oppong's recollection was credible. Also, the other piece of evidence was that in 2001, the guy represented himself as unmarried or single on marriage documents, and he didn't designate Sago as the beneficiary on his life insurance policies for 401k or pension plan. You see, life insurance is when there are money, the money that will be paid to your whoever you designate when you die. So if you have a spouse, clearly they should go on your life insurance policy. But Pauline Sago was not designated on Lasso, her purported husband's life insurance policy. So that was all these flags were very major. The couple also didn't open a joint account until June 2002. That was when they were trying to file the petition for the removal of conditions. Okay. So when you do that, it's a big red flag because when you want to file a joint, when you want to open a joint bank account, it should be even before you file the petition. Okay. So all these things were pieces of evidence. 2001 to 2003, Sago's name was associated with 4 physical addresses, but not with where Lasso was living. So clearly they were living in 2 separate homes, and it didn't show that they had a bona fide marriage. Okay, and then the next thing was that in April 2002, there was a medical, when you go to the hospital, you also fill out, are you married or single? Lasso also said single. All these things were strings of evidence that the U.S.C.I.S, U.S. Immigration, would piece together for the complete story of the shared lifestyle that they were purporting to have as a married couple. After Lasso became ill in 2002, Sago did not accompany him to medical appointments. Of course, Pauline Sago, that wasn't her real husband. So clearly, if that was your real husband, you would go on some medical appointments with him and be concerned about his ailing, his health. Okay. And then, yeah, Sago submitted no evidence. Okay, here in February 2003, Pauline Sago called the police when the couple got into a heated argument about the financial malfeasance and infidelity. And then the police reported ex-wife, said that Sago was the ex-wife of Lasso. That's fine. Okay. So that was another piece of evidence. And then Sago submitted no evidence supporting her claim that she obtained and submitted an amended death certificate because Abraham had fraudulently obtained. Okay, so now Pauline Sago was claiming that her sister-in-law had fraudulently obtained the death certificate, but she didn't submit any evidence of that. So that was not credible evidence of Sago from Pauline Sago that the first death certificate that listed Lasso as single was fraudulent. It wasn't credible. She had to submit evidence to back that. Then the funeral announcement didn't even mention Sago as a wife. And Sago didn't make the funeral arrangements. She didn't grant Lasso's autopsy, all these things. The funeral program listed other relatives, but it didn't list Pauline Sago as a wife. Look, the evidence was just too much. I mean, this evidence was just damning and just, almost insurmountable. Your actions described, okay, so the actions described above are not typical of an individual who lost their husband. That's what the director stated. Yeah, the director, normally probably the director of U.S.C.I.S in the field office where they filed. Okay, so guys, that's it. Let's see what the in-law testified. And then, yeah, we're almost, this is quite, let me open this up. Yes. So the in-law, that is Pauline Sago's in-law, testified that Lasso told her in 1999 that he was marrying Sago. And introduced Abraham to Sago when she arrived in 2000. Lasso later told Abraham that Sago no longer wanted to marry him. Abraham told Lasso to withdraw Sago's papers. Okay, so it looks like Lasso may have been interested in probably marrying Sago genuinely, but Pauline Sago just wanted papers. That's what the case is saying right here. So so after Lasso became ill in 2002, Abraham accompanied him to hospital visits and had friends stay with him. After Lasso's death, Abraham arranged a funeral, cleaned out his house, and there was no woman that ever lived there. So clearly, this was very distinct of a very single. Oh, this was evidence of a very single man, a bachelor. He wasn't married. Okay, so all these evidence. Oh my gosh. And interesting enough, Sago to Pauline Sago, the woman, she should have just stopped all this. She sued the sister-in-law for conversion of her husband's personal property. When you know the marriage wasn't real, why would you sue for conversion of personal property? And Oppong and Abraham, and she sued them for defamation because I guess she felt like they were soiling her name in saying that the marriage was fake. Okay, so pretty much. Okay. Well, let me just wrap up right here. That's it. All the evidence was just very, very damning. Um, they found after they did a lot of investigation, they realized that the marriage was a sham marriage. And yeah, Oppong, hey, Oppong, Edward Oppong really gave detailed information and it was credible because there was no benefit to him to lie. She was unable to contact Kudaya in New Jersey about the $6,000 he had loaned to Sago. If you guys remember, Kudaya was the person that Pauline Sago actually stayed with when she came to the US first, when she first landed from Ghana in the US. Okay, so that's it. Yeah, very unfortunate. Sego testified that last one knew she was staying with Kudaya, and okay, so she didn't know she was getting herself into. Okay, so let's read what Sego said. This was Sego's own testimony. Let me pull this up, and then unfortunately, it looks like the court didn't find her credible because they denied her application. So okay, so Siegel testified that Lasso knew she was staying with Kudai, a family friend, during her first days in the US. When she arrived in Minnesota, Siegel discovered Lasso had misled her about his employment and had a reputation as an alcohol user and womanizer. Siegel was brokenhearted because she didn't know what she was getting herself into. So that was her sob story. After the two argued and Siegel spent the night with a friend, Lasso drafted a letter with his immigration support as a threat. But the letter did not influence her decision to return home. So this is her version of the story that, oh, she came, she really wanted to get married to him, but she found out some dark secrets about him and decided that it wouldn't work. Okay, so oh my gosh. After they married, Pauline Sago claimed that Lasso was physically abusing her, unfaithful, and mismanaged their finances. This guy is dead. So, well, I don't know. He's not here to defend himself. So, concerned about her financial security, she opened a separate bank account. So, she's giving all these stories to show that her version of the story is also credible and that the marriage was actually real. Okay, so Pauline Sago actually had an answer for every evidence against her. She testified that when her husband became ill, she was too young to deal with the stress of his medical problems. Really, okay, and so she wanted her in-law to be involved because apparently, the man's sister, her husband's sister, was a pharmacist. Okay, so yeah, they neither found that. So the court found that both Sago and Abraham, their evidence were not their evidence was not credible. Both of them didn't have credible evidence because they hated each other. There was extreme animosity. I guess I don't know why there was extreme animosity and competing financial interests. So it's all about the money. Both of them wanted money. So both of them were not credible, but the credibility was for Edward Oppong's testimony and the investigation that the officer conducted. So the IJ found that the government has shown by a preponderance of the credible evidence that Pauline Sago, did not have a bona fide marriage with her husband. On appeal, the BIE said the immigration judge properly considered the evidence regarding the commitment of Sago and Lasso to the marital relationship, noting a myriad of contradictions on the record. Yes, they had contradicted themselves both with their testimonial evidence and their documentary evidence as well. Okay, so yeah, pretty much they just found that look, these people were, I mean, Sago was lying, and so we won't read everything else, but let's read the conclusion. What was held? Unfortunate for Pauline Sago, that's how her American dream ended, but well, it's always not over. There may be something she can do. So in some, substantial evidence supports the IG's and the BIA's finding that DHS met its burden to show that Sago and Lasso did not intend to establish a shared life at the time of their marriage, and therefore the statements to the contrary in the I-751 petition were not true. So they denied the petition for review and of the BIA's decision, and denying the I-751, and they terminated Sago's green card, her permanent resident status, and they ordered Sago removed under 8 U.S.C. Section 1227A1DI. Very sad story. Unfortunate, very unfortunate. That was how the story of Pauline Sago evolved. Her marriage was found to be fraudulent. It was not a genuine marriage, and so she no longer was allowed to be here in the United States and was ordered removed. Okay, so let me read a few comments. We have Irene Dorcas Fianco, who says, "Watch live, please. Can please officers apply for the DV lottery?" Today we're not doing DV lottery. I would have to check your, the SVP range. I don't have the information here now, so we can hopefully, I don't know if you should actually watch the video I did a couple of days ago and follow the link to see if that will be helpful in answering your question. Okay, so we have Janet Davis right here. She says, "Good morning, lawyer. Looking lovely as always." Thank you so much, Janet. I really appreciate your kind words. Thank you for joining us today. Then we have Denise Ngoko, who says, "Hello, lawyer. Always good to listen to you." Thank you so much, Denise. You are you're welcome to that video. Mame from Poma says, "What is the age limit for the DB lottery?" The DB lottery usually doesn't have an age limit, but the education Okay, Samuel Benfo, we're back live. Samuel Benfo says, "Continue the good job for your African continent." Thank you so much, Samuel. I really appreciate it. Guys, so that was the immigrant story of Pauline Sago, who's from Ghana, and the lessons we can learn from them as immigrants here in the US. And if you're planning on coming here as an immigrant, be mindful of your every step, and just try to stay within the confines of the law so that you don't get into too much trouble. And if you need my help, of course, welcome to reach out to me. That's my website, right there, akpokulaw.com, or you may call us also on 802-7800-564. And of course, I'll be happy to assist you. I represent immigrants in all 50 states throughout the United States and handle all types of U.S. immigration law matters. So guys, I wish you all a wonderful Friday and a happy weekend. I'll see you guys next week. Please take care, be safe, and be good. Bye-bye.